Hi, everybody. I'm Paula Weiss, co-founder and director of Children at the Well. We have been running the program since 2006, but this year it's really something new, and we're so glad you're with us. I had said in a message that this was our that it's been 2 years since we did a performance, but actually it's been 3 years. And with everything that's gone on for all of us these past 3 years, it's really been quite a journey. We're so glad that you took some time out of your weekend to be with us and to support these young storytellers. Um, and you will hear some wonderful stories today. But beyond the stories, I want to give you a little bit of a glimpse at what Children at the Well is beyond the stories. Um, Story coaches Ayah, Osman, and Stephanie Ward were brand new to working together. Yet in these few months, mostly over Zoom, they have managed to create an enthusiastic and supportive community of young storytellers who are working, each of them working to find their voice. And one of the wonderful privileges of doing this kind of work is all the people you meet along the way. And just today, I had a email conversation with a storyteller from Ottawa who who gave me a wonderful quote, and I asked her if I could use it today. In terms of finding their voice, we both understand it to be really central to this kind of endeavor when we're teaching storytelling to young people. And this is Janet Leroy of the Ottawa Storytellers. She said, "When a child has a voice, I feel it impacts their whole lives. It is so easy to lose our sense of self, especially when we're young. And then we have to struggle to regain ourselves as we grow older. Yet, if we learn to value ourselves and value our voice, what empowerment that is." I really do think that that says so much towards what we're trying to do with Children at the Well. Um, let's see, I have some thank yous to places that offered us space, to Mopco Theater in Schenectady, to the Muslim Community Center, also in Schenectady, to the people who have offered their help, the Story Coach mentors, Barbara L. Apprentice, Lanny Peterson, Marnie Gillard, to the With Our Voice board, who has taken up the challenge of helping us grow under these unusual circumstances, to all the lovely storytellers who are just so enthusiastic and out there. You'll meet them soon. I have to thank our funders, particularly the Seymour Fox Memorial Foundation, um, and and all of the people that send in their checks during the year and support us at Giving Tuesday in November. All of that matters, and it all helps us keep going and makes us feel that we are on the right path. Um, I'll put a donation link in the chat later on, so and feel free to to donate now or later if you like at the childrenathewell.org website. A few housekeeping things: please stay muted. You can send appreciations to the storytellers in the chat. If you have any questions for the storytellers, please private message either Coach Stephanie or Coach Ayah, and they'll ask them afterwards, after all the stories. We'll have a 10-minute intermission in the middle. And also when, as the storytellers are telling, if you're moved to, you can use the reactions in your Zoom functions, the reactions of all kinds. Stephanie and I were fooling around the other day, and we found there's actually, you can do all kinds of smiley faces and whatever you like. So that might be fun for them to see. And tellers, I just want to remind you to put, while you're telling your story, to put your view in gallery so you can be telling to the audience. That'll help. All right, enjoy. I'll turn it over to the first introducer.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Our first teller for the afternoon is Keemayaa. She's a 7th grader at St. Pius X School. She enjoys writing and spreading important messages through many art forms, and her story is called The Race Called Life.
There is one common question in the back of some minds. Now, it doesn't come very often, but when it does, I suggest you take the moment to acknowledge and answer the question thoughtfully. What is life? Now, this may sound a bit cliche because we all know what life is. There's numerous scientific explanations. We are living it right now. But to keep it simple, a synonym of the word life is existence. And nowhere in the definition of existence or life is that it only means winning, victory, achievement, etc. Existence is the state of living, and you are not the only person living in this world. There are billions of people living with you on this planet. So back to the question, is life a survey to see how much success and how many failures you encounter during your limited lifetime? Is it a ruler that measures how many people you push out of your way so you can be the one and only winner to those who lost against you? Is life to boast and brag to them about your achievements? Or is life to treat everyone with equity and equality and help those who can't win with you? See, there is a story that I often refer to when this question finds its way back into my head, and I would love to take the moment and share this beautiful story with you. Once, there was a little boy named Levi. Levi lived in a small town, and he was 12 years old. Now, in his entire town, Levi was the best athlete for his age. He was so fast when he was running, but Levi was hungry for success. He thought success was everything and winning was everything and winning was success and success was winning. Well, so one day Levi called for a race that would occur in his town. It would happen in the public and in the stifling heat. Now there would be some men, some women, some children, some crying babies, and a few elderly people. Now one man managed to walk from his house all the way in the stifling heat to where the race occurred. So the race was about to begin, and Levi was telling his mom, "Mama, I'm going to run faster than light, and you're going to be so proud of me." And his mom said, "Good luck, Levi, and I know you'll do it well." And the race was going to happen, and Levi asked the crowd, "Hi, can 2 people come and run against me, please? It'll be fun. Come on, please." And 2 people stepped forward. They were skinny, they were tall. They looked about an age or two older than Levi. So the race was about to start, and all 3 started at the starting line. Now the race had started, and Levi buzzed through the race, and the other 2 were only halfway through, and they were like, "How is he running so fast? I'm getting tired just seeing him." Well, Levi buzzed through the race, and he crossed the finish line in first place when the other 2 were only half of the race done. And the crowd was ecstatic. "Woohoo! Levi, Levi!" They were chanting his name. They were screaming his name. They were taking pictures of him. They were going nuts. And now Levi was so happy and he felt proud and important. But one man in the crowd showed no sentiment. He remained very calm. He looked down at his hands. He didn't smile. He didn't clap. But Levi didn't see him, and he was just so happy, and he regained all his energy back. And he asked the crowd, "Hi, I need 2 people to run against me, please. One more race, please." The crowd was surprised. How did this little boy have so much energy inside of him? Well, they couldn't do anything about it. But a moment or two later, 2 people stepped forward from the crowd. They looked similar to the first 2. They were skinny, they were tall, and they looked a year or 2 older than Levi. Okay, so now they went back to the starting line, and all 3 buzzed through the race, but Levi was just extra fast, and the other two were so tired just seeing him, and Levi crossed the finish line in first place once again when the other two were only a third of the race done. And now Levi crossed the finish line in first place, and the crowd was ecstatic. Woohoo! Levi! Levi! They were chanting his name, they were yelling his name, they were taking pictures of him. They were so happy, and so was Levi. He felt proud and important. But one man, the same man in the crowd, showed no sentiment. He remained very quiet. He looked down at his arms. He didn't clap. He didn't smile. Well, Levi didn't see him and he didn't care. And Levi regained all his energy back up one more time. And he asked the crowd once more, please, I just need 2 people. This is the last race we're going to run today. Come on, please. I just need to prove to myself that I'm really fast, please. And a moment or two later, no one stepped forward from the crowd. He asked one more time. No one stepped forward. He asked one more time, and 2 people stepped forward. Now, these 2 people were sent by someone from the crowd. It was the man who showed no sentiment each time Levi tried to celebrate his victory, the same man who walked a long way from his house to watch the race. And that man sent 2 competitors that made the jaw drop of the crowd. One was a short, frail old lady with white streaks in her hair and a walking stick, and the other was a tall man wearing thick black glasses. It didn't take long for Levi to realize that that man was blind. What? This isn't a race. Why am I supposed to run against them? I'm going to win no matter what. Why am I running against them? He asked the man who sent them. And the man said, race. And he looked at the race line. Levi was confused. What am I exactly supposed to do? Everyone knows I'm going to win. But he went and he ran the race, and they all ran. Levi buzzed through extra fast, and Levi crossed the finish line in first place once again when the other 2 competitors didn't even cross the starting line. And now Levi crossed the finish line, and now the crowd was crickets. They showed no sentiment. They were quiet. They looked down. They didn't smile. They didn't clap. Just like the man in the crowd once was. Levi was confused. He asked the man, why isn't anyone joining me in my victory? I won just like the other times. And the old man from the crowd responded, little boy, race again. But this time, all 3 of you finish at the same exact time. What? I'm gonna have to walk deathly slow if I'm gonna do that. Why would I do that? I'm not stupid. Well, he still went. He was left with no other choice. So he went to the starting line, and now he went in between the tall man who was blind and the short elderly lady. He held each of their hands, and he started walking deathly slowly. It felt like 1 step per hour. It felt so slow. And the only thing Levi was longing to see was crossing the finish line. And now the crowd was extremely quiet. You could hear a pin drop. They wanted to know what was going to happen and how long it was going to take Levi. Well, eventually, about 20 minutes later, Levi crossed the finish line. Well, it felt like 20 minutes. And when he crossed the finish line, all 3 at the same exact time. Now the crowd once again was ecstatic. Woohoo, Levi! Levi, they were ecstatic. They were yelling his name, someone taking pictures, and Levi felt proud and important once again. And now the man in the crowd who once showed no sentiment now was also clapping gently and winked at Levi. And now Levi had learned something. That in life, if you always win against every single person, then the crowd will soon stop cheering for you. And when you can prove that you can win once, everyone knows you can do it until your last breath. Because when you look back at the end of your life, the real question is, who was running with you in this race called life, not who was running against you. It's not important if you win this race. It's important how you run it. And think about it like this. If you were to be the only person living in this world, it would be boring and lonely. That's how it would be if you were the only person winning in this world. Thank you.
Yay! Oh my gosh, incredible work, Keemayaa. I think about that story all the time, and every time she tells it, the slight changes she makes, it's absolutely beautiful. So our next teller is Keemaaya's sister, Krisha Jeevaratnam, and she is a 10th grader at the Emma Willard School. She's an Indian classical dancer who loves telling stories. Her story is Sudama, the power of Bhakti and true friendship.
Sudama was a childhood friend of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna hailed from royalty and was the avatar of Lord Vishnu. But Sudama, he hailed from a family of priests of lower socioeconomic status. One day, Sudama was in his home, and his wife came to him, her name was Sushila, and said, "My lord, you're in a very pitiable state. And look at our children. They're going for days without food or water. We need help." And she knew that Sudama was the childhood friend of Lord Krishna because they grew up together in an ashram or school where they learned various ancient religious texts and Vedic literature and chants. And she knew that one day when they parted, Lord Krishna went on to Dwaraka where he became king. But Sudama, he became very, very poor because of his austere living and him always praising God and going and living like a sage. So she told him, "My lord, why don't you go meet Lord Krishna and ask him for help? He is a king after all." So Sudama said, Are you a mad woman? You want me to go see my best friend after so many long years and ask him for money? It's just out of mind." Sushila, she said, okay, I understand that you wouldn't want to do that, but look at your children, they're suffering. We just need some help. And she said, and she knew that Vasudeva Krishna was the Lord of the universe and that nothing, just going to see him would be such a blessing. So she said, "Why don't you go see him? And you don't have to utter a word about our poverty." And he said, "Okay, fine. If you insist, I will go see him." But he said, "I'm going to go see a king. How can I go empty-handedly? What can I bring, Sushila? What can I bring?" And she said, "Wait 1 second." And she skedaddled from this end of the room to that end of the room, looking for something to bring him, but there was just nothing to give as a gift. So she said, "Wait 1 second." And she ran out to the neighbor's house and she knocked on their door and said, "Hello, please, can I borrow just a few handfuls of poha, parched rice? I'll definitely repay you after some time." And the neighbor went inside the house, took some poha, wrapped it in a little cloth, and gave it to her. And she thanked the neighbor so much. She said, "Thank you so much for letting me borrow some parched rice. I will come repay you soon." So she took that cloth and she came home and she tied it on a little stick, gave it to Sudama on a little bindle, also commonly known as a hobo stick. And Sudama took it and he was off to go on this large journey. But Sushila reminded him, "I know this is a very simple gift, but Lord Krishna loves this. So if you give it to him with love, he will really cherish it. So please give it to him unhesitantly." So Sudama said, "Okay." And he took it, chewing on the memories he had with his dear friend, took off and he started walking towards this palace. Now, this journey wasn't really short. This was such a long journey. He had to walk for over 24 hours. But he just walked and asked all the townspeople for directions. And finally, he made it to the extravagant palace, and with all its exterior with gold and diamonds and emerald all over its exterior. And he finally arrived and he was walking up to the palace gates when clink, 2 spears go in front of him. And he's like, "Whoa." And he realizes the guards are there holding their spears saying, "You shall not pass." And he says, "Please let me in. I'm here to see my best friend. Can you please tell him Sudama is here? He will be surely very excited." And the guards looked at each other and they started laughing, a little bit confused. This man wearing tattered clothing with blistered feet, doesn't even seem to have a horse, not even the wealth of a soldier, claims to be our king's best friend. It's just crazy. And they said, "No, you cannot go. You have to go and wait in the corner." And he waited and waited and waited. And he was a little upset Because what would you do if your wife forces you to go see someone and you walk over 24 hours to go see someone and you're not allowed to go see them? So he's waiting and waiting, and finally Lord Krishna from his room walks out to the balcony upstairs and looks down to get some fresh air, and looks down and he sees his best friend Sudama. Now this king, he's a king. He doesn't even grab his shoes. He runs downstairs, pushes the guards out of their way, goes outside and hugs Sudama and says, "My dear friend, why didn't you come see me so long ago?" And he hugs him and they're embracing and they're crying. They can taste the salt from their own tears and they're so excited to see each other. And then Lord Krishna, he carries Sudama inside and he pushes the guards again to the side and runs and places him at his own throne. This great king putting such a simple man with no money, no food on his throne. And Lord Krishna fetches for with his servants, "Bring me a basin of water and sandal paste." And he brings it and he washes Sudama's feet with his own hands, this king. And Sudama is just charmed by all this hospitality, and so that he may relax. And Sudama says, "Oh, thank you so much, Krishna." And he says, "I'm so excited to see you." And Krishna goes, "Sudama, you come after so long. I'm sure your wife would have prepared you something to bring me as a gift. What did you bring me?" And Sudama felt that his gift was nothing compared to Krishna's hospitality. So he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Krishna, but in the midst of all this, I forgot to bring you anything. I'm so sorry." And he kind of hid his little bindle behind him. And Krishna saw that. And he grabbed for that little bindle, and all the poha, the parched rice, fell to the floor. And Krishna looked at it. And when Sudama expected him to grimace, Krishna's face enlightened. He was like, "Oh my goodness, you remember after so long that my favorite food is poha?" And he looked at it, and even though he was a king, he started eating it off the floor, so excited. "Thank you so much, Sudama." And Sudama was just again charmed by all this. And Krishna insisted that Sudama stay for a few days in the palace. And Sudama was given this huge room with the most humongous soft bed he could ever imagine, which is nothing compared to his little hut and the little mat that he slept on. So Sudama stayed there for a few days, and it came time for him to depart. So he went to Krishna and said, "My dear Krishna, thank you so much for all the hospitality you have given me. I will never forget it." And he thanked him and said, "But I must go on. I must go see my family." And Sudama bid him farewell, and Krishna also bid him farewell, giving him a hug. But this time he insisted that Sudama go in his best chariot with his best chariotsmen. So Sudama was off again on this great chariot to go back home. So as they get going, they're almost at his street, and they finally arrive at Sudama's street. And this time, when he's at his street, he looks far. But instead of a hut being there, there's a humongous mansion, a humongous house with so many jewels on the exterior. And he asked the chariotsman, "I'm sorry, but I think we might be at the wrong street. Let's just pull over to the next street." But right when he's about to do that, a little child wearing the most beautiful gold jewelry and silk clothing runs outside and says, "Hi, you're finally here." And he's like, "Why is this child calling out for me? I'm a little confused." But then the child says, "Father, you're here." And he realizes, that's my child. And he tells this chariotsman, "Oh my goodness, my child. He's wearing beautiful gold jewelry and silk clothing." And he runs outside and he hugs him and says, "Well, how are you living here?" And then a few minutes later, his wife Sushila walks out wearing the most beautiful silver sari with the most beautiful gold and diamond jewelry. And he says, "Oh my goodness." And he prays inside his heart, saying, "My Lord, I did not ask you for any of this because I do not crave for wealth. Yet out of your mercy and your love, you give to all. So this is the greatness of the love that God has." And he prays and says, "Thank you." His family lived happily ever after with all this wealth, but also with an increased devotion for Krishna, praising his name for the rest of their lives. Vasudeva Krishna says, "Whoever listens to the story of Sudama is blessed." Thank you.
Thank you so much for that amazing story. Next up, we have Nancy Chandra. She's an 11-year-old from Shaker Middle School. She is in the 6th grade and is a Nepalese American that lives in Latham, New York. Her story is Kubera's Pride Humbled.
Okay. A long time ago, there lived Kubera in his palace made of gold. Kubera was known to be very greedy and was always looking for compliments and wanted to show off his pride. One day, Kubera was like, what to do? It's such a beautiful day, but there's no one that I can hang out with. So then he thought, why don't I invite the god of destruction, Lord Shiva, to have lunch with me? So Kubera rode in his golden chariot with his best chariotsmen and went to Mount Kailash and met Lord Shiva and was like, oh Lord, please come to my palace and eat lunch with me. Shiv was like, Kubera, you know I never get out of my Mount Kailash because it's my duty here, but I will send my son Ganesh with you. Kubera looked at the boy and was like, he's such a small boy, what good can he do to me? But since the Lord requested, he agreed. So Ganesh was a very wise person, even though, because he was the son of Lord Shiv, and Ganesh knew that Kubera only came here because he was bored and wanted Shiv to compliment him. So Ganesh was like, why don't I teach Kubera a lesson? So they were riding in his chariot, and Kubera was talking about all the riches and gold he had, and Ganesh looked so done, like, oh my God, when is this gonna end? So as they entered his palace, Kubera was like, look at my palace, it's full of gold and amazing jewels. Ganesh was like, it's fine. And they entered the rooms. They were like big, beautiful rooms with silk curtains. And Kubera was like, look, Ganesh, these are my rooms. They're so much and so big, and I have so many of them in my palace. It's fine, Ganesh said, getting a little irritated. And then they entered his throne room. Kubera was like, look, my throne room, I have so many people that admire me and are here when I roll. Ganesh was like, it's fine, but when are we going to eat? Didn't I come here for lunch? So Kubera brought him to the dining room and told the servants to bring him food. The servants kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, because Ganesh was eating the food so fast. In less than 10 minutes, there was not a single grain of rice left in the kitchen. The servants were like, oh my God, how can this little boy eat so much? Ganesh said, you call this a feast? I am even not full yet. If you don't give me food, then I'll start eating your furniture. So Ganesh started eating the sofas and chairs and everything that inside. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Everything almost vanished in 1 minute. The servants were looking in horror, like, oh my God, are we gonna be eaten next? Kubera, that just entered the dining room, was shocked to see Ganesh eating his furniture, and he got scared, so he ran to Mount Kailash and was like, Lord Shiv, please help me, please, I promise I'll never be this prideful again, please, fulfill Ganesh's hunger. Shiv agreed and went to Ganesh and said, Ganesh, here, eat this bowl of rice and fulfill your hunger. I think Kubera has learned his lesson today. And now Kubera is known as god of wealth, and we learn from him in our culture. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nancy. Every time I hear that story, I think about eating my table just to see what it would be like. Thank you so much. All right, up next, we have Dina Wolf-Palingra. They are a 12-year-old person. They go to Van Antwerp Middle School in Schenectady, New York. They love to sing, dance, and act. Their story is called Coming Out, and here they are.
My name is Dina Wolf-Palingra. My Hebrew name is Dina Margalit David Livad. But my family just calls me Dean. I asked my mom when I was 10, how do you know if you're gay? And my mom said, someone is going to make your heart sing. Boy or girl, it doesn't matter. But somehow, some way, they will make your heart sing. Well, that stuck with me. It stayed in the back of my mind and I won't let go. And now that I'm officially gay, woo, I get to tell this story. This is the story of how I came out. Okay, yeah, that was bad. Anyway, so in 2020, I found out I was gay. The way I found that out was finding out what it was, figuring out that I found some of the girls in my class kind of cute, and fine. Anyways, the first person I ever told I was gay was my mom. And it happened in a strange way. Let me set the scene. Thanksgiving 2020. And for some reason, I was taking virtual school. I was fully virtual. And I'm pretty sure I'm the only one who did that. But anyway. And for some reason, I had drawn my crush on my whiteboard. 10-year-old me, what were you thinking? Yeah, I did that. Anyway, so, okay, so my mom saw it and was like, what's that? I lied. She could tell I was lying because if anyone knows me, my voice gets higher when I lie. For example, I don't like ice cream. Anyway, so she saw the picture and said, this is a girl. I said very quietly, yes. But in my shock, she said this, Mazel tov, for knowing who you are. For those who don't know, Mazel tov in Hebrew is basically our way of saying congratulations, but it actually means to the stars, or good stars. So it's kind of like saying good luck and congratulations at the same time. And I love it. I wasn't worried to tell my parents I was non-binary. I was worried how they would react to me cutting my hair in the middle of the night right before picture day. Like I said, little me, what were you thinking? I know I had it good, but a lot of kids don't. People can't come out because of personal issues or homophobia or transphobia or whatever kind of phobia. And I know that's the thing, but as the great Harvey Milk said, come out wherever you are. Harvey Milk is an LGBTQ plus icon. Not only was he gay, he supported gay. You know what? That sounds very obvious now that I say it. Anyway, come out wherever you are basically means gay, straight, bi, lesbian, anything. You shouldn't be afraid of who you are. and I'm not. Oh, and before I finish, I have one more thing to say. If anyone would say that they don't like me because I'm gay, I would say this. This is who I am, and you can't change that. So with all due respect, leave me alone. Thank you.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Dina. I believe we have a 10-minute intermission before the next teller.
Yes, we do.
Okay, wonderful. So we're going to take 10 minutes. So we'll be back at 3:52 to hear our last 5 tellers. Thank you guys so much.
Our first teller for the second half of our program is Ayah Mahmoud. She's a 15-year-old girl from Sudan. She goes to a Noor Islamic school, and her story is the blind, the leper, and the bald.
Long ago lived 3 men. A blind man who could not see anything. He tried to build and imagine his own world. He imagined how the sky looked like, how the tree looked like, how the people looked like. A bald man who simply didn't have hair, and still the people, they disliked him. A leper who suffered from the leprosy disease, and the people, they were disgusted of him, and they did not like him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to test these 3 men, but not by taking something away from them, but instead by giving them something. So Allah sent an angel down, and he went to the leper, and he asked him, "What property do you like the most?" And he replied, he asked him, what do you like the most? And he said, to be cured of this disease. And the angel touched him, and his illness was cured. Then the angel asked him, what kind of property do you like the most? And he replied, camel. So he was giving a pregnant camel. And the angel told him, may Allah bless you in it. Then the angel went to the bald man and asked him, what do you like the most? He said, to have a beautiful skin and to be cured of this disease. And the angel, he touched his head, and he was giving a beautiful hair. And then the angel asked him, what kind of property do you like the most? And he replied, cows. And so he was giving pregnant cow. And the angel told him, may Allah bless you in it. Then the angel went to the blind man and asked him, what do you like the most? He replied, for Allah to restore back my eyesight. The angel, he touched his eyes, and he was able to see again. Then all the 3 men, they now became wealthy, and after the animals gave birth to young ones and multiplied. So one had herds of camels filling a valley, one had herds of cows filling a valley, and one had herds of sheep filling a valley. So now it's time, so now the angel, Allah sent down the angel in shape and appearance of a leper, and he sent them, and he went to the leper man. He knocked on his door, and he asked him, and he told him, I'm a very poor man, and while on a journey, I lost all my means of livelihood. So in the name of who has given you all of this blessing, can you please give me a camel so that I can continue on my journey? Then the man, he refused, and he told him, I have many obligations I cannot give you. And then they told him, were you not a leper, and then Allah cured you from this disease? Were you not a poor man, and then Allah gave you all of this blessing? The leper, the man who used to be a leper, he said, I think you got it wrong. I inherited all of this from my forefathers. And he closed the door on his face. Then the angel told him, if you are lying, may Allah return you to how you were before. Then the angel, he went to the bald-headed man, and he told him the same thing he told the man before. And also, as the bald man, as the leper, the bald man, he refused and lied, saying that he inherited everything from his forefathers. Then the angel also told him again, if you are lying, may Allah take everything away from you. Then finally, the angel, he went to the blind man. And he told him, I'm a very poor man, and on my way I lost all my means of livelihood. So can you please give me one of your sheep so that I can continue with my journey? The blind man, he told him, of course, you can take everything you want. You can take anything you want. I will not ask you at all. I used to be a blind man, and Allah gave me everything, so you can take anything. Then the angel told him, you can keep everything. You have passed the test of Allah, and unlike your other two companions.
Thank you so much, Ayah. That's such a beautiful story. It was such an important lesson. Thank you. All right. Our next teller is Malia. Malia is 10 years old. She goes to Zeller and she really, really loves soccer. The story she's sharing today is The Man Who Never Lies.
Once upon a time, there was a wise man named Mahmoud. He never lied. Everybody knew about him, even the one who lives 20 days away. The king heard about Mahmoud and ordered his subjects to bring him to the palace. When Mahmoud got there, he said to the king said to Mahmoud, Mahmoud, is it true that you never lied? Yes. And will you ever lie in your life? No. Okay, tell the truth, but the lie is cunning and it gets on your tongue easily. A few days passed and the king called Mahmoud to his palace again. The king was about to go hunting. Everyone was there. The king said to Mahmoud, Mahmoud, go to my summer palace and tell the queen that I will be with her for lunch. Tell her to prepare a big feast. Mahmoud bowed and went to the queen's palace. Ha 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 ha! We won't go hunting, and now Mahmoud will lie to the queen, and tomorrow we will laugh on his behalf. But when Mahmoud got to the queen's palace, he said, maybe you should prepare a big feast for lunch tomorrow, and maybe you shouldn't. Maybe the king will come by noon. Maybe he won't. Tell me, will he or won't he? Said the queen. I don't know whether you put his right foot on the ground or his left foot on the straw after I left. The day passed, and the king went to the palace. He said to the queen, the wise Mahmoud who never lies lied to you yesterday. But the queen told the king the wise words of Mahmoud, and the king realized that the wise man never lies and only says what he sees with his own eyes.
Thank you so much for that amazing, sassy story, Malia. Next up, we have Zunairah Yunus Rashid. She's a 12-year-old Muslim Pakistani girl born in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. She goes to a Noor Islamic school and loves to write stories, leading to her dream of becoming a writer. The story she's performing for Children at the Well tonight is The Light in the Shadow.
I look up at the tall 7th grade room. Here I go, I thought to myself. I opened the door and all eyes fell on me. Some faces were familiar, while others were a bit new. The familiar faces started to whisper, who is she and what is she doing here? I looked down at the ground, and as I was about to walk over to my desk, the door slammed shut. I jumped in fright. All the kids started to snicker, but it started out with the familiar ones. I grumbled and walked over to my seat, trying to forget my humility. I sat down, looked at my feet, and tried to avoid everyone's gaze. I knew that this year was going to be a nightmare. I looked at the kid in front of me. She looked just like me, nervous, confused, scared, afraid. I knew who it was. It was my best friend, Manak. You're probably wondering, what is going on right now? Well, let me explain. You see, ever since I came to America, my dad has been obsessed with skipping grades. For some reason, he thinks knowledge is success, and that's one of our #1 priorities. It was sort of like a family tradition because my mom and my dad had skipped a grade, and one of my sisters has skipped 2 grades while the other had skipped 1. So it was now my turn to do this, to take on the family tradition and then pass it on to my brothers. Thing was, I didn't want to skip a grade. Why? Well, before I came to America, I lived in Dubai. into UAE. And now looking back, I realized that whenever I tried getting a friend or had a friend, they would leave me. So basically, I was a lonely girl. I never realized it until now, though. So I went to America, and the class there instantly had a bond with me. It felt like I was a puzzle piece and I had just fit into the puzzle. I felt like I belonged there. I felt happy that I had found a place where I was gonna be familiar with. But happiness doesn't really last long usually. So when I finished 5th grade, my dad decided I had to skip a grade now. I was devastated. But the one thing that got me through all that trouble was Malak, my best friend. The reason why I'm best friends with Malak is because she was just like me. She's playful, she's happy, she's cheerful, a bit chaotic too. We actually do kind of look alike. Whenever Malak's not there and I'm around, her brother comes to me thinking I'm Malak and starts speaking in her language. It gets a lot on my nerves usually. So let me tell you this story of my crazy experience of this year. In the summer, I had taken 6th grade math, and I was accepted into 7th grade. How? I do not know. I didn't even take a test. I don't know why I'm in that grade. Well, I just thought it saved me the trouble, so I kind of just went to 7th grade without doing much. But I did get the hang on with all the grades and the tests and the math and the lessons. But not with the people, not with the environment I was in. You see, the reason why I didn't, one of the biggest reasons why I didn't want to go to 7th grade was because the people there were the most rude and arrogant people you'll probably ever meet in your entire life. They hated me for no absolute reason. They thought of me as a castaway. They thought they would just pick on us for the smallest reasons. Most of the familiar ones mostly were the ones who attacked me and tried their best to annoy me. The ones who were not so familiar more of ignored us, like in the rude manner. For example, whenever I came back to class after a subject maybe, or either a lesson, I find stuff on my desk, like someone had put it there without acknowledging our existence. Looking back, I think that maybe they didn't like me, but who knows? So after the week was over, on Sunday, I was preparing for dinner, washing my hands at the sink. My dad comes. "Oh, there you are, Zunairah," he says to me. "The principal wants to see you in the office tomorrow." I did not know what I did. "What did you do now, Zunairah?" I told myself. On Monday, as I was walking to the principal's office, I was looking back at everything I've done. Yeah, probably a few things that has earned me my place inside the office, but I don't know if I had done anything recently. When I entered, I saw Malak there. The principal was sitting right next to her. "Oh, I guess we're all in this together now." The principal did not laugh. He just told me to follow him, and I was walking with him along the hallways. He takes a turn, and we go down the stairs. We take another turn, go down the stairs. Then I realized we're going to the basement. "Oh, do we have like a laboratory where we relate to class somehow?" Principal doesn't answer. Then we start going to a part of the basement where a class is. 9th grade and up is where they took those classes. I thought maybe we were going to help them. Maybe they wanted something from them and I had to ask or something. No, that's definitely not the answer. I was trying to guess random things in my head, and then Malak told me, "I know this is so shocking to you, Zunairah, but we're kind of taking..." She hesitated. already knew what was going to happen. We were taking 9th grade classes, I suppose, or something like that, I asked, hoping that she was just joking around. She nodded reluctantly, and I stared at her in shock and stared at my principal in shock. Then I just went through a spiral of depression, basically. I didn't think I was smart enough, which was completely wrong. But I did get bad grades in the beginning. Not because I didn't want to, I didn't have like the IQ or had any like wisdom with me or anything, but because I didn't try. Every single time I got a bad grade, I looked down at my paper, I said, oh, okay, I'm done now. And I walked away. The worst part about being in 9th grade is that I used to see all my old classmates with the most luckiest parties and amazing prizes and games. Well, usually whenever the human brain, it depends on the human brain, but when my brain, whenever it sees something that I want, I usually get jealous. I usually would maybe, my brain would go through spirals of just wanting constantly, or either I would just go through depression or either get mad at the person even though it's not their fault. But that's how I work. In my defense, I think other people would do the same. So I realized I grew envious, but me being the stubborn person I am, apparently, I said, no, I'm not. I knew I was lying to myself. Soon it became pretty clear that I was jealous. How? I started saying hi, trying to include myself in what they do, trying to be like them. This got pretty out of my control, and Manak started to realize. Malak told me that constantly, every single time I said hi to an old classmate, that, why are you saying hi? Why are you saying hi? You're jealous, you're jealous. I said, you're crazy. In my defense, she is a little, okay? I wasn't lying entirely. And one day, again, I said hi to an old classmate. They ignored me. Malak said, are you jealous? I said, no, I'm not. And then she said, yes, you are. Dang, she's good, I said to myself sarcastically. But I was tired of lying at this point. So I looked down at my feet ashamed and said, yes. Now, Malak, even though she can be teasing, she can make fun of me at sometimes, she can be chaotic, and we can get into fights, she's a great friend. She will always have your back if you're her friend. She will never let go. She's just an amazing person. And she told me something that changed my life. So what if they have parties? So what if they have privileges? So what if they have game days and parties and competition and prizes? Look what we have. We have knowledge, we have honor, and we have each other. Isn't that all we need? We're probably never even going to see them again. After high school, after college, after we move, why do you need to care? I shared at her, I looked at her in shock for 2 reasons. Number one, that changed my life and I felt moved. Number two, I don't know, Malak was this wise. But I did take her lesson to me, the lesson that she told me to my heart and to my brain and to my actions. I stopped saying hi. I stopped doing anything. I started focusing on my studies, and sometimes I hear some of my classmates saying hi to me. But most importantly, I'm getting good grades now. And I feel proud of that. A lot of people praise me for being such a high grade. I've learned a valuable lesson now, thanks to Malak. Whenever you're in the shadows, instead of sitting down hopelessly, try finding the light.
Thank you so much, Zunairah. I'm so glad you were able to take something that started being so tough and turn it into such a beautiful story and share that with us. All right, we've got 2 more tellers. Next up is Damia. Damia is 12 and she goes to Acadia Middle School. The story she is telling today is The Lady and the Tiger.
Long ago, in the olden times, there lived a semi-barbaric king. Though some of the king's ideas were polished and progressive, others were big, florid, and untrammeled. One of the king's ideas was to have a big arena, not one where the public had the opportunity to see gladiators fight to the death, but as a sign of poetic justice. In this arena, guilt and innocence were proven by the results of chance. If someone supposedly committed a crime that is so sufficiently important it meets the interest of the kingdom will be notified of the trial. On the appointed day, the king will sit on his high ceremonial chair and will give a signal. Upon the signal, a door below the king will open, and the accused will step forward and bow to the king as accustomed. Then, the accused will have to choose between 2 exactly alike doors with 0 differences. Behind one door is the most ferocious tiger in the land. If the accused opens this door, the tiger will pounce onto the man who will be torn to pieces. The accused is then deemed guilty. The people of the crowd will cry, and large iron bells will play a sad tune. The subjects walk home with their heads down and sad hearts, for someone so young and fair or someone so old and wise had to die in such a gruesome way. But in the other door was a beautiful woman, one chosen specifically for the man. If the accused opens this door, the door below the king will open, revealing musicians, dancers, and singers who will perform in honor of the man's innocence. The man and the woman are then immediately buried, and cheers will be heard from the crowd. The man will then bring the woman to his home, while children throw flowers onto their path. It doesn't matter if the man is already married, has kids, or wants to marry another woman. The king does not permit anything interfering with his great method of judging whether one is guilty or innocent. People would come far and wide to witness these trials, for the tension in the arena is one like no other. One doesn't know if they're about to witness a wedding or gruesome slaughter. In one trial, the tiger can be behind one door, but in the next, the tiger can be behind the other. The semi-barbaric king had a daughter whom he loved among all things. She was the apple of his eye, for she was beautiful, fair, and flourishing, and was similar to him in many ways. However, he was not the only one who loved her. The princess had a lover, one that was suited for her because he was the most daring and handsome of all the land. But he was not of an important family like she was. He was a commoner. When the king found out, he threw the man in prison and set his trial. News of the trial spread fast, for no other case had been so interesting. No one had ever dared to love the princess. Will he be guilty or innocent for loving the king's daughter? On the appointed day, the gates were crowded with hundreds of people. The king sat on his high and mighty throne with his daughter on his right. The signal was given. The man stepped onto the arena. Gasps came from the crowd. He had not known that someone so beautiful had lived amongst them. What a shame that someone so fair had to suffer such a terrible fate. The man stepped onto the arena and bowed towards the king, though the king was not on this man's mind. Although he was positioned towards the king, his mind was set on the woman to his right, the princess. Ever since his trial was decided, the princess had thought of nothing but this event. She had more power, influence, and force of character than anyone who had ever been involved with the case. She had possessed herself to do something no one had done before. She found out which door stood the tiger and which the lady. Gold and the power of a woman's will had brought the secret to the princess. She also knew the woman that stood behind that door. She was one of the loveliest of the land, with beautiful emerald green eyes, a tall and thin structure, soft and smooth skin with 0 blemishes to be seen, and dark locks that shone in the moonlight. It was no surprise that she had so many suitors wanting her hand in marriage, and yet the princess would catch her exchanging looks with her beloved and even talking to him. The princess held such an intense anger for the woman behind that silent door. She hated her with all the intensity passed down from her cruel ancestors. The princess's lover stood in the arena and turned towards the princess. She could see the question burning in his eyes. Which door? As swiftly as possible, she raised her hand and directed it towards the right, a motion that only the 2 of them noticed because all eyes were on the young man. The man turned and stepped across the arena. Breaths were held. The hearts of the viewers stopped. Every eye was fixed upon the young man. Instinctively, he put his hand on the doorknob and opened the right door. Now, the point of the story is, what came out of the door, the lady or the tiger? The more we look into this question, the harder it is to answer. It involves a study of the human heart. Think of it as if this question didn't depend on you, but on that hot-blooded princess, her veins running with despair and jealousy. She had already lost him, but who should have him? How often in her dreams had she covered her face in horror when thinking of her lover meeting the sharp teeth of that ferocious tiger? But how often had she grinded her teeth and torn her hair when thinking of her lover's relieved and overjoyed face when opening the door that held the lady? How her heart broke from the thought of him running to meet the woman while she had a smile of victory on her face. Her single sad cries of defeat being drowned out by the happy cheers of the crowd. Would it not be better for him to wait for her in the blessed place of the future? But still, she couldn't bear to see him be eaten alive. Lots of time and thought had been put into her decision, although it was quick and swift. She knew she would be asked, and she had decided what her answer would be, so she directed her hand towards the right. The question of her decision is not one to be lightly considered, and I certainly don't know, so I leave it all to you. What came out of the door, the lady or the tiger?
Thank you so much, Damia, for that very thought-provoking story. Before I introduce our final teller for the evening, I do just want to remind everyone to send in their questions for our tellers. We'll be having a Q&A session after we're done. So our last teller for the evening is Saamya. Saamya is 11 years old and goes to Farnsworth Middle School. She loves to read and wants to be like the main character in her story, but only the good parts, of course. The main character earlier in his life actually gambles away his kingdom to his evil cousins, sells his brother and wife, and goes into exile for 12 years. So she certainly doesn't want to relive that part. Her story is Yaksha's questions.
Long, long ago in ancient India, there lived 5 brothers. 3 had one mother and the other 2 had another mother, but they were as close as ever. They all lived in the woods. One day a forest dweller came and pleaded to them, "Oh, please help me, please help me. A deer stole my kindling stick and I really need to use it to kindle the fire. Please help me." Yudhishthira, the eldest brother, was humble and righteous. So he said, "Okay, we'll help you. Tell us where to go." The forest dweller directed to the left. And so Yudhishthira and his other brothers ran through valleys, rivers, and mountains. After a while, they got tired. So he sent the second youngest brother, Nakula, to go get some water. "Go get some water." Nakula eventually found water. It was clear, looked cool, and the sun was shining on it. It looked so beautiful. As he raced down shore, he heard a mysterious voice. "Oh, young Nakula, this is my water. You must answer my questions before you drink." Nakula didn't listen. He jumped in the water, drank as much as he could, held some in his hands for his brothers, but when he got on shore, he fell down, unconscious. After a while, Yudhishthira got worried, so he sent Nakula's twin Sahadeva, "Go find your brother and go get some water." He eventually found the same lake as Nakula, but when he saw that Nakula was unconscious, he ran to revive him. But then he heard the same voice. "Oh, young Sahadeva, I am a Yaksha. This is my water. You must answer my questions." He didn't listen. He ran to go save his brother, but he also fell down unconscious. The same happened to Arjuna. He heard the same voice, but he didn't listen. At last, Bhima, the second eldest brother, got really angry. Why were they taking so long? And how come none of his brothers were coming back? He slowly looked around and found the same lake. He heard the same mysterious voice. Oh, young Bhima, your brothers didn't listen. Now they have faced the consequences of their actions. This is my water. You must answer my questions. Are you calling me a coward? I am strong. If you want to fight, we can fight. I can beat you. Bhima didn't listen, and he fell unconscious. Yudhishthira got really worried. None of his brothers were to be found. And when he found them, they were all unconscious. He heard the same Yaksha. Oh, young Yudhishthira, your brothers didn't listen, and I warned them. They have now faced the consequences of their actions. You must answer my questions before you can get water. Yudhishthira replied, Okay, I'll answer your questions with the knowledge provided to me by my gurus or teachers. One of the questions that the Yaksha asked Yudhishthira was, what runs faster than the wind? Your thoughts, he answered. And this is just so cool. You don't realize that your thoughts actually do run faster than the wind, but that's just so cool. Sorry. The last question that the Yaksha asked was, I can only give you back one of your brothers. Which one do you choose? Now, as said earlier, the 5 brothers had 2 mothers. 2 were from one mother, and the other 3 were from another mother. Yudhishthira chose Nakula because his father would have wanted one child from one of his wives and another child from another one of his wives. He had nothing against his Nakula's twin, but he just chose Nakula. And so the Yaksha sits in silence for a little bit, contemplating on all the answers that Yudhishthira had given him. Very well. I have seen that you have answered these questions to the best of your abilities. They are all correct. So as a reward, I give you all your brothers back. He slowly helped all his brothers up, and they rejoiced. When they turned to leave, he asked Yudhishthira one more question. Do you know who I am? No, I don't. I am your father, Dharmaraja, and I am very proud of you. Yudhishthira thanked him, and he and his brothers ran away again to find the deer with the kindling stick. And I actually believe that since this was all a test set by Dharmaraja, Yudhishthira's father, that the deer wasn't actually real, and it was actually part of the entire test that Dharmaraja had put together, which is really cool.
Thank you so much, Saamya. I love your very energetic telling of that story. So that is our last teller for the day. I'd like to again encourage if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask any of our youth tellers to put them in the chat. You can send them to any of the co-hosts and we can ask the tellers. I want to obviously extend huge thank yous to everyone who came and participated today. I hope that you either got to hear some stories that you know and love or got to learn a few new ones. Personally, I also would really love to thank the tellers. This experience working with children at the well has been incredible, and getting to witness your joy and your commitment and how you've grown since January has been really, really uplifting. You know, I think that feeling joy is something very core to the human experience. And sometimes in the world right now, it's a little challenging to do. So thank you guys. Thank you, tellers, for sharing these honest, genuine, joyful stories with us. If you want to stay in touch with Children at the Well, we have a newsletter. We have a very active Facebook page. You can send an email to info@withourvoice.org to get any more information. Yeah, I think that's it for staying in touch. Thank you guys again for coming and supporting this program. And again, yeah, any questions, we'd love to have them. If you're interested in looking into the program in the future, please stay in touch with us. We really appreciate you being here and looking at what our students have done. So if not, have a lovely Sunday, but we are here for a Q&A for as long as you need us.
Well, Janet Leroy actually has a question for the kids. She's wondering how they chose their stories.
Yeah, I see Nancy's hand and then Krisha's hand.
Well, I chose my story because my story originally wasn't even a comedy story. Then I perfected it to make people laugh and smile. It was basically because I had a friend that was like really prideful and then something happened to her, and that's why I wanted to tell the story.
So I chose this story because it is a mythological story from my culture, from my religion, Hinduism. And I think it really resonates with me because, first of all, it's from my religion. And I really like the morals of certain stories. And this moral really stood out to me because it has so many takeaways. This story has so many takeaways. And I just thought it was so cool how so many things could be taken away from one story, you know? Like one of them being, it could even be like your friends may be waiting for you. Like especially it goes with like COVID right now, the situation. I think it goes with that. And it could also be how the king didn't look at him differently, his friend differently, just because he was poor. He was still humble and he was still good friends with him. And I just thought it was a very nice moral.
Great, thank you. I see Dina, then Malia, then Zunairah, then Keemayaa.
I chose my story because I want to give the audience something they could laugh at, but also learn from.
Okay, go ahead, Malia.
I chose my story because it reminds me of my brother a lot, and I kind of just like the story.
Wonderful. Go ahead, Zunairah, and then Keemayaa.
The reason why I chose my story because it was like, even though it was a few months after that what happened, like I still remembered it vividly, and also, I wanted to do something that I like people could relate to, even though it seems so like impossible. I wanted something that I wanted the people to believe, like, yeah, this actually happened, and you could believe in yourself. So that's why.
I chose my story because I really enjoy inspirational stories, and this story had a different thought that normal stories don't usually have. So that's how I chose my story.
Great. I saw Saamya's hand and then Damia.
I chose my story because like I want to be like my character, and I don't know, it's always been a very peculiar story that stuck out to me. So
I may not be the best to answer this question considering I did change my story, but I chose this one because when I first heard it, I remember just like thinking like for a good like 10 minutes, considering what the outcome could have been, what could have came out of the door, and all the possibilities, and the story just stuck to me in a way. So I think that's why I chose it. And also because I felt comfortable telling it, and I feel like that's important when telling a story. You should be able to tell it to your crowd without having to go like just something that you're comfortable with telling other people.
Yeah, you guys have awesome insights. I am. And then I think we have one other question in the chat as well.
I chose my story because first it's from the Quran, from my religion, and also because of the great lessons and moral from the story.
Great. We have another question from YouTube. How long has each teller been telling stories out loud like this? Yeah, Malia, I can't tell if hands are up and down. Yeah, Malia, and then Saamya, and then Damia, and then I am.
Well, I haven't really tell stories in front of people, but I tell stories to myself because I make them up when I'm supposed to be asleep, like at 11 o'clock a.m. at night. So, like, since I was like 3.
Incredible. All right, yeah, feel free to just go in order. Damia, I am, Nancy, Zunairah, Keemayaa.
Like, I don't know, ever since we started the thing that, like, when we actually shared our story in, like, class for the first time, I mean, I've been listening to stories for a while, but, like, reading them, but I haven't actually told them for a long time.
I'm sorry.
You can go first.
Okay. I listen to stories most of the time, but me and my friends tell stories to each other. So it's like my first time telling in like a big audience, but I tell it to my friends and stuff.
I've always done storytelling ever since like I was young, with presenting and just sharing what I've done today. But this is the first time where I've taken a class where I've wanted to pursue storytelling and take my storytelling knowledge further.
I've been listening to stories for a long time, but this is my second year telling stories.
This is my first year formally telling stories, but I could say, to answer the question, my whole life I've been saying stories because of like what happened in school today. That's a story. So informally, I've been telling stories my whole life.
Wonderful. Zunairah and then Krisha?
I actually started stories when I was a little younger, but I was always too shy to share them. But then I started to get out of my shell when I was 10 years old because my teacher encouraged me. But then I was disencouraged by my brother, so I stopped. Then I realized, like, my brother, I don't care what he says anymore, so I returned to storytelling. So it's been a lot of discouragement and then going back to what I was meant to do.
So my sister and I, we have been telling stories from a very young age because we do Indian classical dance. So we tell stories through that art form too. So yeah.
Thank you guys so much for sharing your answers. Were there any other questions that came up, or I love getting to hear anything about your guys' experience with the program. So thank you so much for sharing. Paula, I'll toss it to you if there's no more questions, or if you didn't get any other questions. Then I just want to say thank you guys so much for making this such a successful season, and for putting oh yes, I see Saamya's hand.
So, is there class next week, or is this the last day? Or sorry, I didn't get that.
Saamya, that breaks my heart. Yeah, this is our final meeting for this class. But like I said, there should hopefully be other opportunities, story circles. Hopefully we can keep moving towards meeting in person. So there should be more events to get to share stories at. Okay, I think I see more hands. Yes, I am Zunairah and Malia.
Oh, that was my mistake. I did not show up.
Are they old hands? Okay. All right. Well, Krisha, yes.
I just wanted to acknowledge now while everyone's here that Coach Ayah and Coach Stephanie really shaped us, and this wouldn't have happened without them, and especially Paula too for managing all the meetings and everything like that. It was just, thank you so much, guys.
Oh, thank you.